Welcome in, everybody. It's the First Call podcast, Express Bet and First Call on the air with Jeff Siegel and Jeremy Plonk. Each week, we take a look at 8 stakes races over the course of the weekend. Also, talk a little racing news and notes. And Mr. Siegel, we had the Kentucky Derby favorite on the track this morning at Forte, so we've got some stuff to talk about before we even get to the big stakes races of the weekend.
Yeah, he's the favorite, and he looks like one of the stronger favorites at this time of the year for the Derby. Usually, even by now, they're still kind of wide open, but
Right.
I think it's boiling down to 2 or 3 horses, and maybe someone will pop out of the woodwork. But right now, Forte is the man, and he looked like the man in his easy breeze this morning, taking over for his next start.
Yeah, he's working in company with Forte. Forte working in company with Croupi, I should say. To the outside is Forte here at Palm Beach Downs this morning. Pletcher's got enough horses in his barn, Jeff, that he can work the big horses together. Now, Croupi's not necessarily a big workmate for a horse like this, but this isn't the work that you're really looking for the Florida Derby. We're still a couple weeks away. Next Saturday, I think they get a little more serious with what they want to do for the Florida Derby. So maybe the opponent becomes a little stronger in terms of the workmate as we get closer to the race. But there's no knock here to what we see in this workout.
No, and he goes 50-3, but time is the least important element of this workout. You just want to see him change leads smoothly, which he did. You want to see him eager, which he is. You want to see him full of run but not being asked to show it, which he did. Beautiful stride, happy colt, came out of the race perfect. That's all that this work really was meant to do, is to make sure to Todd that he's fine coming out of that race. And he looks great here, even though he's not going fast. You're right, Jeremy. Next week, he'll be a little bit more serious.
Yeah.
But after watching Forte work prior to the Fountain of Youth, I don't think he's the kind of horse you really have to hone on that much. I don't think he needs to work fast. Some horses he do. But this colt looks like you can get away with just moderate works. He'll be fit and sharp, and that's the best kind of horse to train, is the one that you don't really have to train.
Kudos to our crew, XBTV, down in South Florida and, of course, in Southern California. But a lot of places you got to be in South Florida to catch all the works with all the training centers, and at Palm Beach Downs this morning for the work for Forte. So good to see that. Jeff is in Sacramento. If it looks like he's in a hotel room and not his normal studio, he's right across from the arena covering the NCAA tournament. Nice win for your Bruins last night, Jeff.
They played well, a lot better than Arizona played in the same court earlier in the afternoon when they lost to Princeton. But the Bruins took care of business, and we'll face Northwestern tomorrow. But it's fun being here. It's amazing the crossover between horse racing fans and college basketball fans. I mean, I've seen more horse players here going to college basketball games. It's great. I don't know what it is, but it is. And so we'll watch on TV today, and then go across the street for the games tomorrow.
Well, I'll tell you, here is my bracket. I don't know if we'll be able to see exactly. You see who I've got in the final?
Yes,
Arizona
I do.
Against UCLA, with UCLA winning the whole darn thing. Now, you guys get the other half of it for me, but Arizona just blew my bracket up yesterday. That's just like I should just crumble it and throw it in the waste can at this point. But
well, listen.
two big 12 teams and the 2 Pac-12 teams is the way I saw the final. But Arizona, come on, man, you got to get by Princeton.
They've done it before. They're king of. They've done it. If you want a major upset, count on Arizona. They'll supply it for you. But anyway, it's an exciting tournament, and still lots of upsets to come. I'm pretty sure of that.
With the U of A racetrack industry program, a lot of people in horse racing were sad yesterday, and I don't mean to rub salt in the wound.
No, I know.
Arizona to get to the finals as well. Let's look at our schedule of horse races this week. No bracket busters here, just some really good racing action across the country. At Oaklawn Park, they're going to honor the great Whitmore with a sprint in his name, and also the Essex Handicap, prep for the Oaklawn Handicap. At Gulfstream Park, we got the Hutchinson for 3-year-old sprinters and the Silk Run for the turf sprinters. At Laurel Park, it's the Pato Gold Stakes Day. 5 stakes races worth almost $500,000. 3 of them we're going to feature: the Harrison Johnson Memorial, the Beyond the Wire, and the Private Terms, the only 3-year-old race this weekend that could have any Triple Crown repute. We'll see if the Private Terms can produce a Preakness type starter. And at Santa Anita, the Saturday features the China Doll Stakes for fillies on the turf. All right, Jeff Siegel, let's get into some handicapping here this weekend. It's the Whitmore Stakes. We're going to start off down in Oaklawn at Hot Springs, Arkansas. 6 furlongs on the main track. You wouldn't have the Whitmore Stakes any other way. 6 on the dirt at Oaklawn. That's the kind of race we want to see. And this is an interesting group of veteran sprinters in here who are kind of the baton carriers for Whitmore, as the top older horses in that tough sprint division at Oaklawn Park. You see horses like Teano Twist, Empire of Gold, Flash of Mischief. They've been in those kind of dances. But you've got a horse in Cogburn who's kind of stepping up into that fray for the first time that you like.
Well, I like him, but I don't know if I trust him. This is a horse that you know how sometimes you fall in love with a horse or you think he's going to be really good and he doesn't quite make it, but you're still kind of hanging on to him. Well,
I got all kinds of those.
Well, Cogburn, I remember when he broke his maiden at Churchill as a 2-year-old. I thought he was going to be a star. Came out and won a race at Oaklawn Park last year like a star. It was 3-5, and the Bachelor got beat a neck. Then got beat a neck in the 3/4 length in the Chick Lang, although the horse that beat him, Lightning Larry's a good horse. Then they stopped on him. He comes back at Oaklawn. He's now won there again, so he's won 2 out of 3 with a second. So I know he likes the track. Right. Now he's outside the other speed, which might be a good thing. Although I'm not really sure if he can stalk. I don't know, Jeremy. He looks like he wants to bust out there and go and
be on the front, yeah.
Right, and if he doesn't break sharply or if he doesn't get over, he's going to be in bad man's land. So I don't know if I trust him, but I do like him. He's a newly turned 4-year-old. He's genuine. He's won first or second 5 out of 6, and on numbers he's pretty fast, especially for a 3-year-old turning as a 4. Asmussen has not had a great meeting, you know that. So I don't know what to make of him. So there's kind of pluses and minuses here. I went with him on top, but if you wanted to talk me into somebody else, I'm all ears, quite frankly.
Well, one of those horses and themes that you were talking about, a horse that was young and you thought was going to be really good, and whether they turn out that way or not, you're reluctant to let go of, is Teano Twist for me. I love this horse as a 2-year-old. He was a very hard race 2-year-old. And so, back a couple of years ago, I think he ran like 8-9 times as a 2-year-old and had a really long campaign. He's kind of in and out of form, and this is kind of old school like you used to see with horses, right? They run in and out of form. Now when horses kind of go off form a little bit, they just lay them off and wait for them and come back. But in the old days, horses would run in and out of form, and that seems to be how Teano Twist is conditioned. Now with Chris Hartman, it used to be with the Brett Calhoun barn. But I like this, his return in the race against Gunite last time out in the King Cotton was a pretty darn good effort. He's a come from behind rallying sprint type. So if they go fast, then Teano Twist has a chance on the back end maybe of getting there. Gunite, of course, went overseas and ran in Saudi last time out. So, you got a high quality horse that he ran against last time. Nobody like Gunite in this kind of race, I don't think, in the Whitmore. Let's go back and look at the allowance win by your pick in here last time, Cogburn. We do have some video of that. 95 buyer speed figure in his first start since May to February. This was a pretty good effort first time back.
Top of the stretch, Improbable Journey and Cogburn. Improbable Journey ahead in front of Cogburn in second. Both chasing time and Life is Hard have chances if good enough. 3 back to Spankster, and now Cogburn takes over the lead. It is Cogburn. Life is Hard is coming after him in second, and he's closing for Tyler Bays. Cogburn has the lead. Life is Hard trying to get by in the final 100 yards. Cogburn, Life is Hard, Spankster late. Cogburn, Life is Hard, Cogburn in front.
One good thing about that race, you heard the third place finisher in there, Spankster, who was rallying. He's since come back to win another allowance race, so the form got flattered a little there. It
really is just a matter of whether he builds on that race or bounces, and because he had to run hard. But I like the fact that he actually showed a lot of guts. Usually when he wins, and he's the kind of horse who wins by himself. Anybody can do that. But if you have to dig down deep, and he did, that was impressive. But having said that, I think you talked me into Teano Twist. No, I really did. Because put it this way. I think Cogburn might be the best of the pace horses, but if he pays the price, Teano Twist is maybe the best of the closers. And although he was second in the King Cotton, that was a sloppy track. He's back on fast ground. He'd won his previous 3. He likes Oaklawn, and he's got the style. So rolling exotic players, I'm going to play Cogburn, but I'm absolutely going to use Jeremy's horse, Teano Twist.
Let's move to the ninth race on Saturday at Oaklawn. It's the Essex Handicap, $500,000 here, a mile and a 16th. Prep towards the Oaklawn Handicap, but when they're giving away 500,000, people aren't necessarily prepping. They're in it to win it for sure. Essex Handicap, a true handicap under the old school weights, but there's not a big spread in the weights here. 121 for Last Samurai is the high weight. 116 for Vittorio and others as the low weight. So 5-pound spread top to bottom. Last Samurai is the high weight, coming off a win in the Razorback Handicap last time out. Let's take a look at that one. He's mid-pack on the far turn, but begins to gather.
And the leader is West Will Power. West Will Power, 3 furlongs from the money. Law Professor right alongside. These two are matching strides to the quarter pole. They have opened up 3.5 lengths on Long Range Toddy, Ginobili, and Keystone Field. Next, it's Last Samurai, Law Professor, and West Will Power square off at the top of the stretch. West Will Power inside, Law Professor outside. Last Samurai threatens to run a very big race, and here comes Last Samurai in the center of the racetrack, and he is mowing down West Willpower and Law Professor. So Last Samurai is the new leader. West Willpower is back in second. Here is Last Samurai to win the Razorback.
What a good ride there by Christian Torres. So many times when you have a horse coming from off the pace, you're just going to start swinging wide on the turn and trying to go around horses and not lose momentum. He was patient. The hole opened up. He definitely weaved through it. He's the leading rider at Oaklawn this season. We told you about him, leading rider at Remington in the fall, and he was going over and working horses in the morning at Oaklawn, 6-7 hours away, coming back to Remington to ride at night. And what a hard worker he is. And this is his payoff horse, I think, of the meet. He's already got the win in the Razorback, $500,000 race here. Christian Torres is a jock with a big future, Jeff, and he's going to be a name in the Mid-South for many years to come, if not on the national scale. This could be a big payday for him. And Last Samurai for Lucas, young rider, veteran trader, and Lucas loves that hot hand.
Yeah, I mean, this is a horse that ran a career top figure in that race, 105 for Last Samurai, and it looked like a 105 because that was a good field, and they were strung out on the final furlong. I mean, they were all 7 lengths back to the third horse, Law Professor, who was almost 4 clear of everybody else. And Last Samurai was a closer, but he didn't get a lot of help up front. 47-1, 11-1, finished out in 42. And so he wasn't coming against tired horses. That was a very good race. And actually his race before last, when he was 4th in the Pegasus World Cup, that was a good race too when you consider Art Collector won it for fun. Defunded. Stiletto Boy came back and won the big cap. I mean, that form has held. And Last Samurai was a very respectable 4th. So he's in good form. At age 5, he's run 23 times, but he's never been better. He's outside, but I don't think that's going to hurt him. I think he'll just drop over, settle somewhere in mid-pack and commence his rally wide, and I think he can. There's no reason why he can't win again, although he ran hard. Sometimes they bounce back a little bit, so I don't know if he's going to run as well, but if he does, he'll win.
You look at Last Samurai, a 5-year-old kind of in his career form right now. He's only half the age of Rated R Superstar. The 10-year-old who won this race last year as an 8-1 shot. His form, this year is a little bit off. He was 3rd in the 5th season. He was a distant 4th there in the Razorback. Sometimes horses just kind of hit that age where they're just not what they used to be. But at age 9, it was a heck of a year last year for Rated R Superstar, making $600,000. At 10, I'm not so confident that he can do it again. He dropped so far out of the race. He's going to need the race to kind of come back to him. But there are other good closers in this race. Tawny Port comes from off of it. Last Samurai that we just saw. So, if it sets up for a closer, there's probably closers in better and more peak form than Rated R Superstar. The speed in this race probably comes from Classic Causeway. Necker Island stretching out from sprint races is probably going to be part of it. Forza de Oro set the pace in at Fairgrounds last out. Now, I'll tell you this. The Fairgrounds horses have blown away the Oaklawn horses in the 3-year-old ranks this year. Every single time they come over, hands down, it's the Fairgrounds horses who have been really strong. I don't know if that's going to necessarily play with the older horses, but if it does, Forza de Oro coming out of those races in the Tenacious and the Louisiana Handicap should be awfully high on your radar when you're considering horses for the Essex Handicap. To learn more about each of these horses, we have a Meet the Contenders blog at expressbet.com in the blog section, and also at news.first.com. So take a look at each and every horse in the Essex Handicap in the Meet the Contenders, some historical nuggets, some handicapping nuggets in there for you to check out. Let's go to Gulfstream Park now for a pair of stakes races on their Saturday card. It's the Hutchinson Stakes first up in race number 8 that we'll look at. And Super Chow, very fast. The winner of the inaugural at Tampa, the winner of the Bowman's Mill at Keeneland, and the winner of the Limehouse over the track at Gulfstream Park. Tried to go 7 furlongs last time in the swale and almost took them all the way. They're back to 6 today. But watch this effort last time, taking on a good one in General Jim.
Less than a quarter of a mile to come. It's Super Chow in front. General Jim takes aim and starts to gain. Now there's an eighth of a mile to go. Super Chow trying to gut it out for another furlong now. General Jim within a neck. General Jim right alongside. Super Chow digs, but General Jim's got him. And General Jim and Jockey Louis Saez to win the swale by a length in the end.
Jeff, do you see anybody at 6 furlongs who can warm this horse up at this point? Super Chow just looks outstanding, 4 for 4 at the distance, and I don't see anybody in here.
No, he actually ran well in the swale. I mean, he got beat by a very sharp horse in General Jim who ran his race that day.
Yep.
11 lengths clear of the third horse. You're supposed to win if you're 11 lengths clear of the third horse. And before that, he had won 4 in a row. But you're right. On speed figures, on any other metric you may want to use, Super Chow is just dominant, way better than these. And you pointed out how much better he is at 6 and 7, and that race showed it. I mean, at 6 furlongs, he might have been able to beat General Jim, but not going 7. So he'll be a short price. Chantel knows him well, rides him well. So I would think that Super Chow would have to be a very short price to win the Hutchinson.
A much more competitive race comes up next at Gulfstream, the 11th on the card, the co-featured Silks Run Stakes, $100,000 there. Again, 5/8 of a mile on the grass. We've got a full field of 12. You got Big Invasion, who was such a good 3-year-old sprint turf horse last year. We kept wondering, like, what race is he going to go in next? Are they going to keep taking, like these 100-granders and knocking them out and the listed stakes races with some good purses? Or were they going to try something like the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint by the end of the year? Didn't work out. He was defeated at Kentucky Downs when he tried to go 6.5 in the Franklin Simpson. Now off the layoff, they're back to the turf sprint, but they're back to the kind of races where Big Invasion was so good last year. This is like a 100-grander listed stakes race. This should be a good comeback spot for him.
He is the king of the listed stakes winners. I'll give Christophe Clement credit. He never asked this colt to do any more than what he's capable. Although I thought he was capable of better, but he knows the horse a lot better than I do. I thought he was going to be a Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint type of horse, but instead he ran him in a grade 2 at Kentucky Downs, and horse didn't get out, got bumped, and obviously came out of the race worse for wear. And I remember after the race, the quote from Christophe was, "We're going to give him the rest of the year off and bring him back," and that's what he's doing. Now you look at the work tab; he's only worked 4 times, but they're only going 5/8 of a mile, and I don't think you need really have to hone on this horse to have him fit. He has proven form, winning form at Gulfstream, which I think is important, going 5/8, because that's a kind of a tough course for a late-running sprinting type horse. But Big Invasion really gets over the ground well. I think he'll come back as well as he left, and I think he'll beat this field. I think he'll outclass him. And, as a 4-year-old colt with only 8 starts and 6 wins, still lots of good racing ahead for him, and I think he'll come back in good shape and win.
Yeah, you got some money at Keeneland in the turf sprint ranks in the spring for the graded stakes type, so maybe getting ready for that. This would be a good timing-wise and quality of competition-wise to prep for that. You do have the top 2 finishers from the Grade 3 Gulfstream Turf Sprint in this one. Cara Terry, the runner-up, who was the beaten favorite, and Yes, I Am Free. They are both back in race number 11, the Silks Run on Saturday at Gulfstream Park. Let's go back to our stakes schedule as we advance from Gulfstream to Laurel Park on Saturday. As we mentioned at the top of the show, 5 stakes races at Laurel this Saturday. They're calling it the Pot of Gold Day. Almost $500,000 in purses for those 5 stakes races. We will take a look at 3 of them, starting in race number 7, the Harrison Johnson Memorial. This is a race with the hottest handicap division horse on the track right now. He won the Manfuso. He won the John Campbell. It's Nimitz Class going for 3 in a row. Dave Rodman tells you about his last stakes win.
Nimitz Class gets away from 8 to Be Cold with Our Nation on Parade charging hard to center of the track now to second with 1 furlong left to go. Nimitz Class had Jemmy on Toledo. They're in front by 3 from Our Nation on Parade second. 8 to Be Cold trying to hang on to third. Then Forewarned is next. Followed by in the inside Treasure Trove. Here's Nimitz Class sailing home again to win it in the John B. Campbell Stakes.
Easy win there in the Campbell for Nimitz Class. Now, the Campbell was a mile and a 16th around 2 turns. The Manfuso was a mile and a 16th around 2 turns. The Harrison Johnson Memorial on Saturday is a 1-turn mile. So configuration, the track, and what you've got to do a little bit different here. And of course, at Laurel with the 1-turn miles, they use the second finish line here. So they got to go about a 16th of a mile past the normal finish line. So just a different set of circumstances. Will that success for Nimitz Class continue? That's really the question mark, because if he runs back to his last couple, Our Nation on Parade's back in this race. He'll probably be second favorite on the tote board. And you just saw he waxed him, Jeff.
Yeah, Nimitz Class, by the way, and for to your point, Jeremy, has been beaten in his last 3 one-turn races. But he started out as a sprinter, so I don't think that's going to be an issue. I think if he comes in his current form, 4-year-old colt by Munnings, he's really starting to peak now. 7 out of 13 lifetime, and he's got the great style actually for a one-turn mile, because he can go to the front, but he doesn't have to. In fact, he's probably more comfortable following another horse. So if he can settle in somewhere in the middle, second flight, even second or third, and that's going to be just fine for him. And you saw the way he quickened off moderate fractions in that race. He can turn it on late. And I don't see any reason why he should stop losing now. I mean, he's carrying 126 pounds. He's picking up 2. I don't think that's going to bother him. So I think Nimitz Class can continue to win.
If he is upset, keep your eye on American Dioro late. This horse really rallied with no pace help at all last time. Did it impressively, looked good coming up the inside. From the one hole, again, you could just envision the same kind of trip. Caught the loose leader, Hello Hot Rod, last time in that allowance race. And the 2 best races on the form for American Doro are the 1-turn miles. So where you talk about the favorite, where maybe the 1-turn races might be a little bit of kryptonite, if it is at all, you're going to get a great price, I think, on American Doro. It was 9-2 when winning an allowance company. And I can't see that one being any better than 4th choice in this race. So I think you're going to get a more than fair price. At Laurel Park, let's move to the 8th race on Saturday. It's the Beyond the Wire Stakes. These are 3-year-old fillies, maybe some Black-Eyed Susan types prep here as we stay the 1-turn mile trip. The colts in just a moment are going to get a chance to go 2 turns, but the 3-year-old fillies stay around 1 turn in the Beyond the Wire Stakes. Jeff, this is a field of, what do we got in here? 7. Who'd you like in the Beyond the Wire?
I ended up with Lady Lowry, although there are question marks surrounding her. She's by Munnings, and who doesn't like Munnings, right? Tough as nails, and they do everything. But Lady Lowry coming in from Turfway, so she's never been on dirt. She's been running on the all-weather, closing second. First time out, very impressive in that race, so much so that they knocked her down to 1-2 in her next start. And she won very convincingly in that race, and did so like a filly who would really like a 1-turn mile. In other words, to say that she can lay fairly close, and then she continues on with that long run in from the top of the stretch to the wire at Laurel Park. So I think she's a progressive, lightly raced 3-year-old filly, and looks to me like she will be really capable and eligible to step forward big time here. And numbers-wise, she's already a fit anyway. She probably doesn't have to really improve all that much, but I think she will. Cairo Sugar on the outside is developing nicely, of the New York bred, who probably will be on the lead. The question now is, how much pressure, if any, she's going to get. But I do think Cairo Sugar is going to be on the front end. So for me, I think it's Lady Lowry over Cairo Sugar. I think that's how the race shapes up.
5 of these 7 making their stakes debuts, so some chance for improvement. We're looking to see if there's anybody kind of bubbling under the radar in the Beyond the Wire to step up in that local 3-year-old filly division at Laurel Park, and maybe, just maybe, bounce their way towards the Black-Eyed Susan coming up in mid-May. To the private term stakes next at Laurel Park. It's the feature race, in my estimation, on this program, because You've got 3-year-olds here, and anytime 3-year-olds are on the track this time of year, you start thinking maybe Triple Crown prospects. The private terms, a mile and a 16th, will be the first time we stretch these horses on the Preakness path in Maryland around 2 turns. Up to this point, everything's been 1-turn miles or shorter. So we get to go 2 turns for the first time. And that's really the question with Coffee with Chris, Jeff, because he has been the top horse this winter in Maryland. He won the Hef Stakes. He was second in the Spectacular Bid. And then he won the Miracle Wood last time. That was going to the mile. Previous races at 7/8. Will the son of Ride on Curlin handle 2 turns? That's the question with Coffee with Chris. He's already run 10 times. He's never been stretched out in distance to this point. Topside Ride on Curlin says yes. The Damn Side by the Damn Sire Outflanker says probably not. This is a question mark with Coffee with Chris, but he's been Maryland's top horse here throughout the course of the winter months.
It's just a matter of how you grade the Maryland 3-year-olds. He's obviously been one of the best for sure. I don't know if it's a strong division or not. I'm not crazy about the 8-hole going a mile and 16th because you wouldn't think that it would be that bad, and maybe it won't. But now what do? Do you gun him off his feet to get over? You take a hold and say, look, maybe I'll drop over and see if that'll work. So it's. I would have much rather preferred to see an inside draw with him, and I don't know whether he'll route or not. But I will say this. Numbers-wise, he's pretty fast, but he's not as fast as Register, who in his 3rd career start won a maiden race very bravely, ran faster than a 93 Beyer number, which is usually good enough to win a graded stakes this time of the year for 3-year-olds.
Yeah.
That was a 1-turn mile, so this is the first time around 2 turns for him, but he's had 3 1-turn races now. He is ready to stretch out, and I think he's a pretty good horse. I think. I will find out here. But his maiden win, I thought, showed a lot of bravery. It was a good race. It was a fast race. And I was, for one, impressed.
Here's the win by Register at Aqueduct. Chris Griffith on the mic.
And Asmodeus here for a final furlong. Trying to rally on from the back of the field. There is Power in Numbers and host of others, but Register and Asmodeus, they continue to throw it down. Register trying to put away Asmodeus, who comes right back to the outside inside the final 16th. Head and head down to the line. Register, Asmodeus, Register, photo finish. Tight photo.
So we know this horse has guts. There's no doubt about it. We know he has speed. There are others in the race with speed. Feeling Woozy, Circling the Drain. How great is Nate? You've got Register with some speed. The outside horse, Coffee with Chris, maybe has to even use a little bit more speed from that post. One horse we know who has no speed and has no issue with 2 turns is Hayes Strike, the Kenny McPeak trainee. He didn't lift the hoof last time on the synthetic, but that happens a lot of times with horses who just simply do not handle the synthetic. If you take that race away, 4th in the Gun Runner, 3rd by a length and a half to Instant Coffee in the Kentucky Jockey Club, you would think with a good pace set up, a horse who's proven around 2 turns, that Hayes Strike should run pretty well in this race. I would think he's going to be reliable in here, and he gets Lasix for the first time. He's the horse who I ended up taking on top in Countdown to the Crown. I don't think he's the most brilliant horse in this race, and I don't really think he's a Preakness kind of horse, but I think he's the right horse at the right time when he gets a setup here, and he has that experience around 2 turns. I think that might help him in this race with so many of the horses on the stretch out.
First time Lasix too, so that'll help. And like you say, he didn't run well at Turfway, but his race 4th in the Gun Runner, even though he was not competitive, he stayed on. He didn't wave the white flag. I mean, he was outfooted, but he tried. And you're right. This race has the potential for a pace meltdown. And if that happens, Hayes Strike will have every chance to pick him up.
You talked about that crop in Maryland this year among the 3-year-olds. Some of the better ones are sidelined. We've seen some good ones. Brittany Russell's had a couple. Cal Lynch had one. That just Recruiter being one of those. They just haven't gone down the local path, and they didn't have any success when they went out of town. So it just doesn't look like the strongest group in Maryland this year, and the best of those aren't in the private term stakes. So it's Coffee with Chris, seeing what he can do on the stretch out. Otherwise, I think it's the fresh faces. You took one from New York. I took one from Kentucky. We're on the same path there. Let's go to our final stakes to look at this weekend. On Saturday, it's the China Doll Stakes at Santa Anita. The China Doll, you're taking tea and conversation, Jeff. That just seems natural.
It does. That was part of the handicapping factor that I used. But I remember watching Tia Conversation at Del Mar, and she trained pretty well and looked like a kind of a backward filly. And took a while for her to figure things out, and I think she's finally coming around now. Now we've got 3 fillies coming out of the same race here. That was the Lady Shamrock. AG Bullet is not back in here, but the Wild Grazer, who was favored in that race and ran well, and adding blinkers, is back. Also, Princess Patina, who was wide most of the way, stayed on nicely for Peter Urton and switching to Frankie Dettori. She'll be running on late. And then the filly who was 4th in that race was Tea in Conversation, who was only beaten a length and a half, actually was going as well as anything in the race at the end and galloped out real well. And now she switches to Johnny V. So the Candy Rides generally will develop a little later. This is now her 8th career start. She's won. Not run well or won on Santa Anita's turf course, but I don't think that's a bother because she ran well last time. So I really think that the Tea in Conversation is going to step forward here, and at 5-1, she's as good as any. But if I were playing any kind of rolling exotics, I'd have to use all 3 because they're so close, and now they're all in different stages of development. But I think I'm going to gamble on Tea in Conversation because I really liked her last race, and I think she's going to step forward.
If you're playing that Santa Anita card on Saturday, be sure to check out the tournaments at expressbet.com. We've got the $500 Santa Anita Challenge handicapping tournament coming up on Saturday. If $500 sounds a little steep to get in on a handicapping tournament, you have a chance to play today on Friday as we release our podcast for just $40 in a feeder tournament. So play that $40 Santa Anita feeder tournament today. You could win your way into the $500 championship tomorrow, the Santa Anita Championship Handicapping Contest. If you like to play the international racing, good one for you late tonight in Australia. It's the Golden Slipper. I think $4 million purse for 2-year-olds. Yes, 2-year-olds. It's Southern Hemisphere, so these 2-year-olds are already seasoned in Australia. So check that out, the Golden Slipper, late night tonight, Australian racing. And after all these years, we joked about it in our marketing conversations this week, but for fans, it's actually something to follow. Remember that the Australia A, B, C, D as the nomenclature for the racetracks are. That's finally over with. We are no longer categorizing tracks as Australia A, B, C, or D. The actual name of the track is showing up in the wagering format for U.S. simulcast players now after all these years. So check out the Golden Slipper on Friday night and forget about it. We've retired Australia A, B, C.
Hey, let me ask you a question. $4 million, that's Australian. What's the conversion rate?
Oh, you got me on that one.
I think it's pretty.
The way the U.S. dollar is right now, I don't know. You might do better in Australia the way things are going in our markets.
Right. No, I think there's some. By the way, that's one of the reasons why you can't buy horses from Australia here, because the money is so great over there. They want so much you couldn't justify it. But there are some really good Australian horses, as we know. We used to have a lot of them here. I mean, way back in the 60s and 70s, Fred Hooper used to have a lot of them. Remember a horse named Daryl's Joy, who was a great turf horse. But now you can't buy them because there's so much money there that no one will sell you a horse for any kind of what it's worth. It's too much money to run for there. $4 million for a 2-year-old? Come on.
And also on Saturday night, tomorrow night, I want to let you know that Charlestown has a mandatory payout in their Rainbow Six tomorrow. I believe about $150,000 expected to be in the carryover. They do race tonight. If somebody takes down a single ticket, then they'll play it tomorrow with a mandatory payout and no carryover. But keep an eye on the results tonight, Friday at Charlestown. Nobody hits it. We're looking at 150,000 plus in the carryover for the Pick Six tomorrow. And I've got a blog just posted moments ago on the Express Bet and First Bet websites, taking a look at that sequence at Charlestown. 2 different tickets, one a little more aggressive, one a little more conservative. See what you think about playing those races at Charlestown. And I will say this too. The First Bet app, the handicapping app, I'm a guy who likes to do my own handicapping and everything. But it is fantastic at Charlestown. I get a weekly report every week about where it's most successful when picking winners. Charlestown is always right at the top, if not the top, 40+% winners picked by the First Bet app. It loves short distance sprint races on the dirt. The app does exceptionally well when it looks at speed factors and things like that. And that's really what you're getting at Charlestown. So if you're not really sure you want to jump into that mandatory payoff because you don't handicap Charlestown that much, I give you a little handicapping in the written word. And then also the app is very effective, I think, for people to get in there with your thumbs, handicap with your thumbs a little bit and check out those races. $150,000 carryover. It's a $1 pick six at Charlestown. So it's not one of these 20 centers where you're saying a lot of times these mandatory payouts, well, it only paid 800, 1,000 or whatever. With a $1 minimum, you're going to get a nice payoff in that sequence at Charlestown on Saturday. So be sure to check that out. Jeff, you got hoops? Nothing going today, I guess. You're back bouncing balls on Saturday?
Yeah, that's right. I'll be working handicapping the weekend here for Santa Anita. We'll have our analysis posted as always at ExpressBet, so we'll be doing that, watching the games on TV and walking over for the press conferences. And so it's still a good day. And the good news is, like I said, I can walk there. It's 2 blocks. That's my exercise for the day. So yeah, good racing. Good internet reception, by the way, in the arena, so I can watch the races while I'm watching the games. I can.
Well, good internet reception in the hotel. I'm surprised we didn't break up or freeze or anything from the hotel, even. So
I know.
Hotel Wi-Fi gets a thumbs up.
Not only that, but because I'm not home, I don't get 15 calls during our broadcast with people trying to sell me something. So it's good. I like going to these places, and if we can survive in advance tomorrow, we'll be in Vegas next week. So it's fun.
That sounds like a more fun trip than Sacramento. So good luck to the Bruins and good luck to you.
Thank you.
In your travel plans with that. That's going to wrap up this edition of the First Call podcast. Be sure, again, to check out that $40 handicapping tournament today, the feeder into the $500 Santa Anita Championship. Those races from Santa Anita today, part of that feeder tournament. So on behalf of Jeff and everybody at First, I'm Jeremy. Have a great weekend. We'll talk to you Tuesday when we make it official on It's Official. Good luck, everybody.